Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV, starring the one and only wonderful Dr. Jacqueline. It's a prestigious place where world-class influencers and experts meet, and where you'll find the most trusted advisors and coaches for all things in life and business. Visit usaglobaltv.com to sign up for our newsletter, get the value you need, and be first in line to learn about events and giveaways and other valuable content. Connect with us. Email Dr. Jacqueline at usaglobaltv.com to talk about how you can become part of USA Global TV. That's USA Global TV, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, and our show today is Talking Heads. Talking Heads is a platform where experts come from around the world to share their knowledge and their expertise to help make us better personally or professionally. Each show is 30 minutes long and is led by one of our expert presenters. Today's expert is Mr. Red.Olaughlin. Let's welcome him to the show. Hi, Red.
Hi, Doctor. Good to see you again.
Good to see you as well. We just did a show together, The Wise One, so try to tune in if you can before this show to catch both of them. Red, I know you're moving on to a new subject, a new group of topics. I'm really excited for this, so I'm going to spotlight you, and when you want your deck, just let me know. I'll be backstage.
I shall do that. Thank you so very much, Doctor. Appreciate it. Red.Olaughlin here. My passion is health and wellness. There's many reasons for it, but early in my life, I took a chemistry class, usually about sophomore year in high school, and I fell in love with chemistry. My first love, long before anybody else. It was several years later before I ever met my wife, which will be 54 years coming up here in July. But I still love chemistry. When she was sick with breast cancer, I got the charge back into my system of being able to go in and do some research as to what can we do to start offsetting some of these side effects. And I started using my chemistry background. I graduated with a degree in it. However, I got an invitation to Vietnam, never got a chance to practice it. Now I have 6 Saturdays and a Sunday every week, and I love researching what goes on in the human body at the cellular level, biochemically speaking. I look for cause and effect relationships. Treat a cause, fix a problem. Treat a symptom, and you'll always be treating the symptom. And I've written a few books. I've looked at the causes of aging and what we can do about it. You can accelerate the aging process or decelerate. And that's really where my passion lies. I want to be able to share this information with people. I talked earlier about aging, age-related diseases. Now I'm starting to hone in on a specific part of the body. So for the next few weeks, we're going to be talking about heart health. What is it? What can we do about it? And so my disclaimer is I'm a researcher. I'm not a doctor, never been in that field. I'm not a medical expert. I research the body. I have never had any dealings with pharmaceutical companies. So I'm not bringing this from that perspective. I am telling you what is actually happening in the body and what we can do about it. Now, this first session, we're just going to kind of go in generalities. Then we're going to delve deeply into some of the things that actually create a problem for the body, how they get there, and what we can do about it. But what I want to do, let's just go ahead and open up the first slide, and we're going to start our basics today. On heart health, I already gave the disclaimer. I'm not anything dealing with the medical industry, but we're talking about the basics today. I believe that people need to go from awareness, and right now they may not be aware. So we're going to start with the basic level of awareness. Then we're going to go into education, a little bit more detail. And then it's up to that individual, depending on the nature of their particular the health and everything, as to what actions may or may not need to be taken. So please enjoy this educational series with me. Next slide, please. There are a lot of different myths regarding heart health. One of them is, I'm too young to have heart disease. Well, it's not your age. It's what do they say? It's not how hard you've been. It's how much you're doing or not doing. If you're sitting on a couch and you're 200 pounds overweight and you never exercise, and you may be 23 years of age, that is a prime candidate for heart disease. You could be 82 years of age and be active as can be and maybe not have a heart concern in the world. So the age is not an issue. So just saying, well, I'm too young for heart disease, they're starting to find a lot of people in their in their literally 5, 6, 7, 8 years of age that have plaque in their hearts that becomes an issue. Diabetes, a lot of things are happening to very, very young people. But if you're in your 20s or 30s or 40s, I'm too young for a heart disease. Don't kid yourself. You're really probably a prime target, but it depends on your lifestyle. Another one is that I don't need to worry about blood pressure. I can feel it. I know when I have high blood pressure. Well, when it gets really, really high and you start getting headaches from it, yes, maybe so. But there's a reason why high blood pressure, hypertension, is called the silent killer, because it can strike at any time. High blood pressure is something that does happen naturally to a lot of people as you get older. I flew for 31 years, and then I had flight physicals for 31 years. I flew for 16 years in the military, and every year I had a flight physical. I have not missed an annual physical since 1968, and I just went in recently and had updates on certain things. Up until a few years ago, and I'll be 76 this year. I've never had issues. Now, when I took my flight physical, if I was right at the maximum weight and I was kind of backed off on exercise, I might be pushing that upper level of, I might have high blood pressure, might not. But if I did 2 or 3 weeks worth of exercise, or I watched my diet and dropped a couple pounds, past it all easily. Well, as you get older, that 2 or 3 days, 2 weeks worth of exercise doesn't always work the same. Losing a couple pounds doesn't always work the same. But high blood pressure is manageable most of the time by exercise and weight control, weight management. But if you don't know what your blood pressure is, that can be a problem. So blood pressure cups are very inexpensive. Even the automatic ones are not that expensive. So you really need to know what it is, but you can't just feel it. You may be stressed. That may increase your pulse rate. It may increase your blood pressure. But generally speaking, if you have high blood pressure and it's running high all day long, you probably don't know about it. Some people say, I don't have a chest pain, so therefore I don't have to worry about a heart attack. Well, the chest pains is not always what you think it is. A heart attack might be shortness of breath, nausea, lightheadedness. You may have a problem in your jaw, your neck, or your back. It's not always the chest pain per se. 3, 4 years ago, I was working at the rodeo here in Houston, and it was chilly outside. I would sell tickets at the amusement park, volunteer, and I'd walk out, and it was probably in the 50s or something, and all of a sudden I got these spikes in, like needles just diving into my pectoral muscles. And I come back in, and 2 minutes later, I'm fine. But it just really grabbed my attention. I went ahead and caught my regular doctor. They set me up for my first visit to a cardiologist. They ran a bunch of tests. They couldn't find anything. I get back out again the next winter. I get through the whole summer, no problem at all, no pains. Next winter, I get cold, and all of a sudden, I got those same pains again. Mine are very spiky pains. Well, they told me I had angina. I said, okay, fine. I said, didn't agree with anything I ever read about it. And just recently, I'm in there doing a follow-up, and I said, doctor, tell me your exact definition of angina. So we went through that. I said, well, yeah, I agree, but I don't have any of those symptoms. And I described again what I had. And so we had a conversation. Well, they took me off 2 angina medicines that I don't need to be on because I don't have that particular problem. But chest pain is nothing to you really. If you have something wrong anywhere, any pain, you need to see somebody. Chest pain, you need to see somebody really quickly. Another myth, if I'm taking medicines for a problem, and let's say diabetes or high blood pressure or whatever, I'm taking medicines, I don't have to worry about it. No, because what you have right now may be under control, but just because you're taking a medication for it doesn't mean that the body's going to accommodate that especially high blood pressure medicines. Your body may work well for that particular one for 6 months, 16 months. It doesn't matter. Then all of a sudden, it's not as effective anymore. Or you have another problem that crept in that wasn't there before that you're not taking medicines for. So just because you're taking medications for even heart problems doesn't mean you cannot have a heart attack. It just means that you may not have it right now, and it's something you really need to watch. So if you're taking medications, but you're not taking your blood pressure, who are you really fooling? That's one of those things you really need to take care of. Genetics. Well, my father died when he was 54 years of age. His grandfather passed away of a heart attack when he was 50. I'm doomed. I can't do anything about it. Absolutely wrong. Genetics is probably a predisposition in about 5, maybe at most 10% of the people. But there's a thing called epigenetics. This is when you actually can change aspects of your lifestyle, and the genes have switches, just like a light switch, on or off. You can actually switch a gene on or switch a gene off. So if you're obese, you have high blood pressure, you have diabetes, uh, yeah, you're switching a lot of genes on that you don't want on, but you gradually control those by lifestyle choices, and those switches go off, and you really can control a lot of issues. Another one that's commonly heard, well, I'm not old enough yet to get checked for that. Well, okay, fine. You're not over 40. You don't need this test. You're not over 50. You don't need this. Why would you not want to know? Just because you're not old enough doesn't mean you can't have it. It just means that for the norm, most people, say in their 30s, don't have this problem. But if you're not getting checked, why are you deferring it? It's just there's just so many things that can easily be checked that we're not doing. Like I said, I haven't missed an annual physical since 1968. And most of the physicals I get are not near as complete as a flight physical I used to get. But regardless, I am still getting checked out. I have for a number of years, for quite a number of years, all my blood tests, all my medical tests, they couldn't find a single thing wrong. Everything is in the normal range. If I had anything out at all, it was maybe one blood test that was a little high or a little low. I know for probably a decade or so, I always ran low on white blood count. Have no idea why. I was donating blood twice a week, platelets and plasma, and I would get the results back from my blood work, and they would do a quarterly check, and they say, yeah, we know your white blood count's low, but everything else is fine, and we're using the blood, we're using whatever. But I knew that I had a low white blood count. For what reasons, I don't know. For most of my life, my cholesterol, total cholesterol, was in the 104 to 114 range total. And so my concern was, well, how low is too low? Because that's pretty low for total cholesterol. Well, it turns out that it must be a genetic factor because my dad had very low cholesterol. My son has very low cholesterol. But it's just one of those things. Sometimes genetics work in our favor, sometimes they don't. Next slide, please. But you're always old enough to go in and get checked out. Now we hear the term heart failure, your heart stopped beating. That's not true. Heart failure is really when your heart is not pumping as much blood as it needs to pump. And that becomes an issue because you're not getting as much oxygen into the system. When you have cardiac arrest, that's when the heart stops. Your breathing stops. Everything stops. One of family member was here about a year or so ago, and was acting really weird. I mean, just that wasn't him. Just don't know what's wrong. And then all of a sudden, he literally keeled over, and had been standing next to him, he would have fallen and really hurt himself. But now he's lying on the concrete outside, and he's not breathing. And we start CPR and call the ambulance, get everything taken care of. But there are a lot of things that you need to pay attention to. And heart failure is definitely one because you're not pumping as much, but you can't feel that yourself. And we're going to talk about some symptoms here in just a moment. But that's a big one. Sometimes you get leg pain. So, oh, I'm just getting older. And you're not associating leg pain with a heart issue. If you're not pumping the blood, maybe the blood is not getting oxygen to the legs. The legs are revolting because they can't do their job because there's no oxygen there. So leg pain, even though it may be an aging issue, may very well be a heart issue too. Fast beating hearts, yeah, sometimes you kind of, but that can be from exercise. It could be from a lot of things, stress. It doesn't mean there's an attack imminent. It just means that maybe there's something there to pay attention to it. Does it go away in 3 or 4 minutes? If not, maybe it's something you need to talk to somebody about. Maybe you do need to go into an emergency room. Maybe you do need to talk to your doctor. But just a fast beating heart by itself, if it doesn't go away, probably not an issue. If it does go away, great. But if it doesn't, now it's something that you really need to be aware of. I hear people saying they can feel their heart stop beating. My heartbeats on bump, 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 and they'll miss a bump, and bump, 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 bump. And I can't feel that at all. I can feel it in my pulse. My cardiologist is a non-issue, but it's one of those things that sometimes having a fast beating heart is an issue. Sometimes missing a heartbeat is an issue. But again, if it's something that you notice, talk to somebody about it. Another myth is, I just had a heart attack. I need to avoid exercise because I don't need another heart attack. Your doctor is probably the best person to advise you on whether exercise is best to recuperate from that heart or not. Remember, the heart is a muscle. Usually when you go out and you exercise, you're building your muscle back up. So it may be the best recovery is exercise. Now, I'm not talking about going out and lifting weights and running, but it may be something as simple as just walking. So take your doctor's advice and say, well, if I exercise, I'm going to have another heart attack. No, take your doctor's advice. Next slide, doctor. Thank you so very much. Okay, so when I look at what is heart health, well, it's part of an overall program of, are you aware of what's going on? Do you have a full understanding of the implications of everything? What choices are you making that are good or bad? What things are you doing to prevent a heart attack or reduce the risk? And then, are you monitoring everything? Are you actually taking, let's say you have a very high beating heart. Are you taking your pulse all the time? That doesn't require anything but a couple fingers and a watch or clock. You have, let's use some common sense. If you have a high, write it down, date, time, what's going on. An hour or two later, take it again. A couple hours later, take it again. What's going on outside in your life? What stresses do you have from family? What did you just eat? What have you been doing at work? Write all that down, because by the time you get to the doctor in a week or two, whatever they can get you in, now you have a record of what's happening, what was going on at that time. You may not have had a blood pressure reading to go with it, but if nothing else, you had your pulse rate and you had the situation that was going on in your life at that time as you could identify it. Just as if you're writing a journal, you're writing literally your life right there in that moment. So my pulse right now is 135. This is what's going on. I just had this to eat. Be very definitive, because that is what's going to help you when you go see your doctor. If you don't have a blood pressure cup, please seriously consider getting one and learn how to use it. If you don't know how to use that one, then just use the one you strap on, and it gives you push the button and it gives you a reading. Anything is going to be better than nothing. Next slide, please. Heart health lifestyle. These are things that are going to improve, or if you're not doing them, make things worse. So let's just kind of tackle each one as we go along. Diet. How many times have we heard about that? Heart healthy foods. Diet is the thing that gets all of the nutrients into our body. And as we're going through the next several weeks, we're going to be talking a lot more in those specific areas. What are the things that you are eating that are good and bad? But diet is something we do every single day. There are food choices. Something we're not doing every single day is exercise, probably. Some people are addicted to it and they're doing it all the time, no matter what. When you go to the store, maybe you might want to park a dozen car lengths further out and get a little bit extra exercise, or park 2 or 3 rows over. If you're going up an elevator and you're only going up 2 floors, why not take the stairs? There are a lot of options that you can get just a little bit of extra exercise in what's going on. There's a commercial on TV, hit the mute button and stand up and just do a couple deep knee bends. Don't have to do more than a couple, 3 or 4, but you're doing something. So exercise is something that really and truly helps the heart, because you're adding more oxygen as you're breathing heavier and getting things through the system. Smoking is definitely a health issue. There are very, very few people that can smoke into their hundreds and not have any health problems at all. Very few, probably count them on, I would say, one hand, but certainly a very small number. But smoking for most people becomes a major health issue. And where is it affected? It affects the lungs. So now you're having an issue with getting oxygen into the heart. You get the toxins from that. A lot of heart issues are directly responsible from smoking. Alcohol in excess, an issue. Moderation, not so. At least that's what all the doctors say. If you're concerned, a glass a day, probably not going to be a problem. A 6-pack a day might be a problem. So moderation in diet, moderation in exercise, no moderation in smoking, just cut it out, but moderation in alcohol. Now I put 2 things up here, weight and fat management. you may have your weight under control, but you may have more fat than you really want for your height and whatever. So fat becomes an issue too. You don't want to have a lot of fat. Uh, and so when you're looking at what you're doing right now, I started Lent and I said, okay, my goal is not to lose weight during Lent, but I wanted to lose inches around my belly because I have a little bit of extra fat in that area. So right now, my focus is losing inches of fat, not so much losing pounds. So it depends on where your focus is. If you tried many, many times to lose weight with a diet or exercise and you didn't, then your subconscious mind, and that can be another topic down the road because the subconscious mind is such a wonderful thing to deal with. But it may your brain may be sabotaging you from losing weight, but it may not know a thing about losing inches, which now you're in a brand new world because the sabotage is probably not an issue. Stress management, we all face stress. It's there. It's not the stress, it's what we do with it. If we reach around or we grab a hold of it and we don't let go, that's a problem. Many programs out there. Go to YouTube, watch them. I use pranayamas. There's breathing exercises. There's a half a dozen or more. They're great depending on what you're trying to do. But stress management, you really just, as if you step on the scale every day, you need to be doing something to address stress. I would say hourly, just take a couple deep breaths, smile. It doesn't take a whole lot, but we'll get more into stress management down the road. Toxin removal, awareness. If you're not aware of what's going in your body, there's just so many things there that can create a problem. So I strongly recommend you start reading labels, buying healthier foods, stuff that says no antibiotics, no artificial colors, artificial flavors. Avoid anything artificial, but we need to get less and less toxins in the body. Last item on a heart health lifestyle is regular checkups. If you don't know where you are going, any road will get you there. But if you're going down the wrong road, that's not the road you want. Next slide, please. Lots and lots and lots of heart diseases. Some are called arrhythmias. I was quite surprised the other day. I went in to see my cardiologist, and I just had literally a whole battery of tests, stress EKG, nuclear EKG, had everything. As far as I know, nobody called me up, said, you had a problem. Just come on in, we'll do a follow-up. I get in there, and the first thing they did was they slap all the leads on me and do another EKG, and they left, and I was talking to my wife. I said, well, probably just another way to pad the insurance. That's another thing that they can do to justify. Well, lo and behold, did I realize that between 2 or 3 weeks earlier, when I had a whole battery of tests, and now all of a sudden I come in there and I just have a simple EKG, doctor comes in and he's very concerned because all of a sudden in 2 weeks I had what they call atrial fibrillation. There's one of the lines on the EKG, very definitive. I couldn't feel anything, didn't know anything was different. Anyway, he had to schedule me for what was called it's called a TEE, a tracheal esophageal echocardiogram. They actually put this echocardiogram probe down your mouth, and they start probing the heart from the inside. It goes down into the stomach and starts probing the heart from different areas, and they're taking pictures and looking at everything, because the next thing they need to do is to do what's called a cardioversion. They're actually going to stop the heart and then restart it, just like you reboot a computer. And for 99% of the cases, you do that and the arrhythmia goes away, atrial fibrillation goes away, and boom, it's a non-issue. So I asked him, is this days, weeks, months, or years? He says, yes. He says it can come back in days, weeks, months, or years. So it's one of those things that I'll need to be monitored for a while. But it's a problem. But if you're not getting checked out, you don't know it exists. Now, some people may be able to feel a skip in a heartbeat, but not everybody can. If you do feel a skip in your heartbeat, absolutely, definitely go see your doctor. There's aortic diseases. There's congenital heart disease, something you're born with. Coronary heart disease is the big thing. Heart attacks, obviously, we know about that. Heart failure is not quite there, but you're right on the cusp of having an issue. There's heart and muscle diseases, and formats is an item that somehow showed up on this slide that I have no idea where it came from. So anyway, we're going to jump to the next slide now. What are some of the symptoms of a heart issue? Well, one of them is obviously chest pain. You can feel that, But if you're not feeling chest pain, but you have a shortness of breath, you can't get that full breath. It's like when I was telling my doctor, I didn't think I had angina because I could take a huge deep breath. I had no problems at all with that. But I had these spiky things, my needles burning in my pectoral muscles. But I had no problem with an elephant sitting on my chest. I had no shortness of breath. I had nothing like that. But for whatever reason, they weren't listening the first 3 or 4 times I told them I didn't have that. When I finally said, okay, let's talk about this. And then finally, okay, fine, you don't need those medicines. So I'm a big proponent of don't take anything you don't need, but let's make sure you are taking exactly what you need for whatever, but keep monitoring because things change. You might have fatigue. Anybody who's had COVID lately knows exactly what fatigue is. I mean, it's hard just to keep your eyelids open because it was a real fatigue maker. But you can have fatigue. Is there a reason why? Are you sleeping well? Is there something going on that's stressing you out? A lot of things there. Let's say you are an exercise person. You just can't quite complete whatever you were doing. If you used to go out and walk 3 or 4 miles around the mall, and then all of a sudden, I can't even get around the mall a couple times. These are symptoms that might actually be a problem, heart associated. Weak legs, legs, if you're not getting the oxygen and the blood flow there, they're going to atrophy a little bit and you're going to have weakness in your legs. That is a major, major problem as you start getting older because there's so many other issues that add to the weakness of the legs. And we'll talk about a couple of those because I think it's really important to know some of the chemicals and where they're going and why some do certain things. Edema, swelling. Just because you have edema in your ankles doesn't mean it can't have some relationship to some other aspect in your body. Edema in your elbow, your wrist. If you have edema, there's something causing it. Go see somebody and figure out exactly what it is. It's not something you can live with. Let's just put it that way. Next slide, please. Okay, what are some of the causes that we need to be aware of? Well, they're going to tell you the number one cause of coronary artery disease is plaque. And that plaque gets inside the arteries, and instead of having a nice big tube for the blood to flow down, now all of a sudden it's narrow. And as it gets narrower and the blood's trying to push stuff in the pumps, you're pumping is higher pressure to get it through a narrower opening. And that plaque is there. Now, the plaque comes from a number of different places. Two primary ones: oxidized cholesterol. Your body needs cholesterol nearly in every single cell. Just because they say your cholesterol is high, it's not the numbers, it's the ratio of HDL to LDL in your cholesterol. But it's also a matter of the plaque where it's coming from. So if you have reasons to oxidize cholesterol, we're going to get into a lot of detail about this in the next week or two. But oxidized cholesterol forms plaque. Another one that forms plaque is calcium. The calcium is getting into the body, but it's not getting into your bones. And when it doesn't go into the bones, and there's a reason for it, real simple, easy one, it goes to your heart valves and arteries and forms plaque. Another heart cause, a heart attack cause, or a heart issue is stress. We're not treating it. Already talked about smoking. Obesity, major, major cause for so many things. 30 pounds overweight, yeah, maybe not obese. 100 pounds overweight, yes, definitely. A lot of issues happen there because of it. Hypertension, high blood pressure, definitely a problem because now you're causing that heart to operate outside its normal limits. And when it's operating normally, you might get that 200,000 miles in the car. Most of my cars get about 400,000 miles, just in case you want to know, and they're still running. But you take good care of things and they're going to last a long time. Keep the blood pressure in the normal range, and that's one less thing to worry about. And diet, there's so many things that we can do wrong in our diet, and we'll go into those details. And I think we're getting toward the end. Next slide, please. Pain. If you have a discomfort in your chest, tell someone. If you can't get to the doctor by yourself, have somebody take you there. Now, that discomfort may not necessarily be a heart attack happening. That discomfort could be a lot of things. It could be indigestion. It could be muscle strain from doing something else. It could be acid reflux. But without knowing what that pain is, exercise on the side of caution. It doesn't hurt to go in and have somebody do a complete workup on you. They're doing all the stuff that needs to be done. Slap an EKG on you. Do the things that they need to say. Okay, let's get an ambulance here and get this guy to the hospital right now. He's not going home. Or, okay, go home and see me the next time. But until you know what's going on, why take a chance with your life? That little extra amount of time, if you actually have a stroke, can limit the quality of your future life so much you would not believe it. But take that action right now, get something done. If you have a heart attack or stroke, there are a lot of things that can be done literally in the first hour or two to get you back to normal. But if you don't tell anybody what's going on, now you have a problem. Okay, I believe the next one is our last slide. Yes. Let's talk about what we really can do. Well, checkups. If you're not getting an annual physical, why? Uh, it may be because you don't have the insurance, but again, there's so many things out there that you can get checked. There's wellness checks that that doesn't do everything, but if a wellness check turns up something, maybe you now qualify for something you didn't qualify before. Monitoring, whether you do it or somebody in the family does it once a week, every day, blood pressure, pulse, lots of things can be done. There's so many different labs out there nowadays that you can actually go in and for a very little amount of money have things tested. CRP is a test that I recommend to find out how much inflammation is in the body. Chronic low-level cellular inflammation is the start of nearly every single disease. If you know you have high levels of inflammation, you probably have a disease starting somewhere in the body. Why not get it tested and find out what it is? Lifestyle, we talked about your diet and your stress and all those different things that we do to have a better life. The things that we're not doing tend to make our life worse. And Doctor, that's the last slide, I believe. Is that not correct? Yeah. Okay. So we're in good shape. That's the end of our basics on. Let's just talk a little bit about heart health and which road we're going to go down. I think there's 17 or 18 or around 17, dozen and a half things that can really be a super problem for the heart, and we're going to go into them in a lot of detail. And if you don't have this much of this or you have too much of that, we're going to talk about it and provide that level of awareness into the level of education. So now you have something you can go to your doctor and talk about intelligently and say, doctor, I need something for this, or doctor, I don't think I should be on this. And then you can have that conversation, and hopefully between the two of you come up with the best agreement. And I'm going to get back to the other doctor at this point in time.
You said doctor, so I came back. So here I am. That was really interesting, Red. And I started thinking about just myself and my family. I know before COVID, I went and had all the tests and did all the appointments, and then I slacked off bad. So I think that's a wake-up call for all of us to really put our health first.
And I noticed now that I'm going into different doctor's offices. I was at the VA this week, and I had my dermatologist appointment this week. I'm finding more and more doctor's offices no longer require masks, which I think is great. You walk in the hospital, you still have to have a mask, but a lot of the doctor's offices are now saying mask encouraged, but not mandatory. And so, but again, personal responsibility. If you think you need a mask, don't hesitate. Wear a mask. You have to take care of yourself first. So don't just jump at something that's because it's there. Personal responsibility. You think you need it, wear it. Don't ask any questions. Don't be embarrassed.
And especially if you don't feel well, put the mask on for sure. Yeah, a lot of really good information. And I would encourage people, like I'm saying myself, I need to go and have blood tests done. So I'm going to make the appointment and get it done. And I would encourage everyone else to do it too.
Well, as always, as you say, you learn a little bit more each time, incrementally.
Yes. Well, I know that you are off on the road, so I'm going to let you go, and I'll look forward to seeing you later on for our next meeting.
And I look so forward to that too, Doctor. Dr. Jacqueline, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so very much. I appreciate it. And we'll catch you all later on.
Bye. All right. Thanks, Red. Safe travels. Bye.
Bye now.
Well, everyone, that concludes our programming for today. We have had a full day of broadcasts, and I have learned so much. I don't know about you. How many of our shows are you able to watch? If you can't watch, you can listen over on our radio channels. I recommend going to MyTuner, MyTuner, MyTuner Radio. and you can get that right on your computer, your phone. You can download the app, and we're playing 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Our shows start tomorrow at 9 a.m. Our first show is Authentic Achievement. So I hope you'll join us for that and for the rest of our broadcasting. You can watch all of our shows over on our YouTube channel, which is USA Global TV. And if you're watching there now, or when you are watching, please click subscribe and join our community. We have between 20 and 25 live shows each week, and we're only going to be going up. We're already adding more programming. So it's very, very exciting. We have a global audience, and we just thank each and every one of you for taking this journey with us and also for helping to spread the word. I'm going to close out with a clip that I really am enjoying for a new movie. Take a look, and then we'll be back tomorrow.